Zion Williamson is once again in the news, but maybe not for the reasons that you're thinking. As we lead up to the draft, there are some credible, real rumors coming out that New Orleans is actively exploring possibilities in terms of trading away Zion Williamson. And this comes in two different forms. We've got some Windhorst rumors. Again, the guy that was really active last offseason, called a lot of different stuff and, had all these different ideas about where guys may or may not go and was right about a lot of stuff. He's right now saying that they're actively exploring some possibilities in terms of Zion. There's that angle, and then there's the angle of them trying to move up to number 2 overall to get Scoot Henderson and the possibility of Zion being included in that as well. Now, let's set the stage here a little bit. Let's understand the landscape of Zion trade situations. His value right now, I would imagine, is as low as any player, star or superstar, that we've seen in the last couple of seasons in terms of a guy that could still be an all-NBA caliber player, potentially an MVP caliber player down the road. His value is probably as low as any of those guys that we've seen around the league in recent years because he can't seem to stay healthy, he can't seem to get in shape, but also when he does play, we've got that one season to still hold on to. 60 games, all-NBA caliber player when he was healthy. You have that to hold on to. And so there is still value there, but it's so much lower than you would ever expect for a player that talent level because of all these other things that he's got going on. Which is why, to me, this is so interesting. You would never, ever in a million years consider a Zion trade if you were New Orleans, if he was healthy. If you go under his basketball reference page, if all the numbers that say games played, if they all said 60 plus games, they would not consider trading him whatsoever. This is a team that was 23-12 at the beginning of last season when everybody was healthy. When CJ, Brandon Ingram, Zion, when all those guys were playing, they were rolling. They looked like one of the best teams in the conference. However, at a certain point, if you're New Orleans, you might just have to wave the white flag and say, yeah, it would be super cool if all those guys would play. But the one inconsistency, the most inconsistent piece of all of this, and the guy that may not even want to be here in the first place, is Zion. And so that would be the reasoning for potentially trading him away, whether it be just in general or to try and move up to the number 2 overall pick in this draft and potentially get Scoot Henderson. The concept there would be, we understand the talent. We understand the upside, and if he was healthy, we'd never want to trade him. But we can at least get something out of him. We can move on from this very uncertain situation, and we can start to form our team around guys that are actually going to be on the floor and guys that we can count on. Having said that, if I'm one of these teams around the league that has a real shot to get Zion, I would 100% explore bringing him in. Now, it would require a lot of research and a lot of background on understanding what he's actually like, if he actually has any level of commitment whatsoever to trying to be a really good basketball player, because he's got the big contract now. He's going to have that no matter what. So you got to look into all those different things. Is he going to get healthy? Is he going to be in shape? But if you can get him, for example, if you're Charlotte and you can get Zion for Gordon Hayward in the second pick in the draft, I would really heavily explore that. I know that sounds crazy because of how good a lot of people think that Scoot and or Brandon Miller is going to be if you think Miller's the second overall pick here, as well as the contract difference between Zion on this big deal, uncertainty, injuries, all that, compared to someone like Scoot or Brandon Miller that's going to be on the rookie deal for a couple of years under team control. I understand all the concerns with that. But if you're talking about upside for Charlotte, having Zion there, if he becomes the kind of guy that you would want to have on your team, all NBA, potential MVP caliber guy, that means so much more to you than whatever Scoot, whatever Brandon Miller are going to be. You've seen it. You haven't seen Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson be all NBA caliber players. You've seen Zion be one of the most dominant, one of the most efficient offensive players that we've seen in the league in years. And you have the opportunity, if you're Charlotte or potentially if you're a team like New York that wants to put together a trade package, you have an opportunity to bring in that guy. It's something you have to at least think about and explore. Now, to be fair, this isn't a situation that's for everybody. I don't think a team like Portland should be exploring Zion trades because they need more certainty than anything else. If they want to build around Dame, which bringing in Zion, the whole point would be to build around Dame, you want someone that's going to be on the floor, that's going to help you, that you're going to be giving up assets for a guy that you can count on. And that's just not what you're doing here with Zion. The real scenario to me would be a team like Charlotte, a team like New York that wants to bring more upside. A team like Brooklyn even maybe wants to bring more upside to their group, has some assets that they can trade that even if it doesn't work out, it's not going to cripple their franchise. They're not counting on Zion. You're hoping that Zion becomes the guy that we saw in that one season where he played 60 games, all NBA caliber player, all that different stuff. And I can see it from that perspective for those particular teams. And you know what? I could totally see it for New Orleans as well. I think the possibility of them trading up to number 2 overall, it's probably not going to look exactly like this structure where it's Hayward and the second pick for Zion. They're probably going to ask for more than that in exchange for Zion, even with where his value is. But a structure similar to that, where you get Scoot, CJ, Brandon Ingram, all the other, interesting wings and all these different pieces that you have. If you really believe in Scoot and you're just over the Zion thing, you think, you know what, even if it does happen for him at some point, it's just not going to happen here. He's not committed to us. Making this kind of move could be a franchise altering and elevating trade, really for both teams, depending on where Zion goes. And to me, the reason why all of this is so incredibly interesting is, one, the draft possibilities here. Whenever we have a team that at this point in New Orleans is picking at 14 and has a chance to go up to 2, and we got rumors about that, that's really interesting and intriguing to me because that doesn't happen very often. But also, as I mentioned in the beginning, a player of this guy's talent level, one, doesn't become available for trade very often, and two, when they do, the expectation is that it's going to be for all these future draft picks and all these young players, and I just don't think that's what the deal is going to look like. Maybe that's what New Orleans is going to ask for initially, because they don't really want to give up on the Zion experience yet, but in the long term, they're not going to get multiple firsts and pick swaps and all this other stuff and all these young players. It's going to be something similar to the second overall pick and maybe some more stuff. That's where his value is at right now. And so it might feel like selling low, and it probably is, but there's value there for New Orleans in getting stuff back and moving on from the situation. And there's value for the other team that's potentially getting, as I continue to say, an MVP caliber guy if he can just figure out how to be healthy and get in shape. Now, I say all that to say this is going to be an incredibly polarizing situation. There are going to be people that are 100% I'm out. I don't want Zion. I don't want anything to do with him. And maybe that's where New Orleans is right now. There are going to be people watching this video screaming, no, there's no way I would give up any draft compensation. There's no way, certainly I would give up the number 2 overall pick in this class. I understand that the talent level is there, but I just don't trust the guy. I understand there's going to be that group of people. I'm kind of still over here though. Like, depending on what the compensation is, you don't, especially if you're a team like Charlotte, you don't get the opportunity to get guys like this and have guys that maybe you're excited about a fresh start. You don't have that opportunity very often if you're a team like Charlotte. And obviously, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. You could trade the second pick for Zion and he could play 40 games for your franchise. It could be one of the worst trades in the history of the league. Scoot could go on to be an all-NBA caliber player. But you know what else could happen? You could trade the second pick for a nice player. Scoot Henderson maybe becomes a couple-time All-Star, a nice player, right? And you could get back someone that's averaging 27 and 8 that is playing perfectly alongside LaMelo, gets his fresh start, gets himself in a situation where he's excited and happy to be somewhere. He gets in shape, and all of a sudden, you've got the guy that everybody thought Zion was going to be when he came to the league as a prospect out of Duke. You've got someone that is elevating your franchise in a way that, no disrespect to Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, whoever you would have picked at the second pick, it's just impossible for them to have gotten to that level, that kind of all-NBA caliber, top 15, top 10, top 5 player in the league status. That is something that Zion as a trade asset, maybe not as a player, but as a trade asset, does still represent, even if there's all these other things that are bringing that value down right now. I think this is a real possibility. New Orleans is at a bit of a crossroads here. They've got all these future picks and no real reason to continue to just build the team up on the edges. They need core quality guys that they feel good about. And they know that they had the talent level to be one of the better teams in the conference last year. And if they don't feel like they can count on Zion, as these reports and rumors are saying, it feels like a real and a legitimate possibility that Zion Williamson could be on a different team very, very soon.